Hey everybody, this is Mandy White Pearl.
And Ron Pearl.
And we are here today to talk to you about the 5 sales conversation mistakes costing you clients. So glad to have everybody with us today. So glad to have those of you who are listening live and those who are going to be listening to this as a recording. I'm getting much better at sort of acknowledging those who are calling in and going to listen later, right? Because first of all, you know, there's different times and places you're going to do that. So I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. I'm looking to keep you guys in conversation for about 90 minutes. So just get yourselves comfortable, get yourselves in a place where you can focus all of your attention on this very important matter of sales conversations, because it is the lifeblood of your business.
It is.
If you don't have clients, you don't really have a business.
Not a profitable one. Maybe it's a non-profit.
As one of my coaches said, yeah, if you have a business doing what, or if you have a thing doing what you love and you aren't getting paid, you're a hoe. And that stood for hobby owner instead of business owner. So we've got to teach you today how to get people to easily come into conversations with you and get them to say yes. And really what spurred this call on, Ron, was Ron and I lead a mastermind group once a month with a collection of entrepreneurs solely focused on upping their game when it does come to sales conversations. So, and last week we had one of our amazing participants actually record one of her coaching calls. And from there, we got to listen to what was happening on the call. She'd come from a place of saying, she actually called, sent the group an email on Mother's Day and was like, I'm a little annoyed that I'm working on Mother's Day. I'm annoyed that, that I'm doing this, and I'm looking at my schedule for the week, and I've got a lot of hours of strategy sessions, and I just she wasn't celebrating at that point.
I know.
We know there's 2 problems here in the world. There's one problem of getting strategy sessions, which we'll have another call about that. But then once you get them, actually having a successful call is something that's tremendously important. And so she was kind of stressed out looking at her week and saying, I just know that I'm going to waste all of this time having all these sales conversations because, they just don't turn in. People tell me they don't have any time or they don't have the money to work with me. And so I had suggested, it's like, record the call. I've asked you to do this before, record the call. And I guarantee you within 5 or 10 minutes of me listening and you listening to yourself back, that we'll be able to diagnose the problem. And sure enough, we pretty much nailed a couple of things that are going to change the game for her immediately, if not as she sort of starts to embody the principles that we're looking at. So it gave me a lot of reflection afterwards in sharing this exercise with her. All of the other participants on the call really benefited from hearing what somebody actually did in a sales conversation, and then hearing like sort of the nuances of when the person on the other line makes some noises or they change the subject, that those are actually really clues for you to tap into in knowing, is this person on board and going to sign up, or is this time to just go ahead and fish or cut bait.
So in hearing the recording, the first thing I acknowledged is it was a really it was this person's way of acknowledging that they wanted to change and doing what was required to make the change, which initially was saying, I want help, I want this to change, and not just blaming this doesn't fucking work, right? I can't do it. She's been with us a long time, and for her to accept the coaching, record the phone call, to show up, and then to have that intimate setting shared with the group, and then to have the corresponding dialogue where we deconstruct what was going on, and then have her face what it was that was going on, because sometimes there's going to be fear, that comes up, or there's going to be, you know, some other garbage in the closet we got to drag out, you know. These are all the things that come up that often inhibit you from just being you on the call. Because when you show up awesome, right, and you're detached from all those other outcomes, then you can like get into what that other person needs. But when you bring all your shit to the table, it's hard for you to orient and see what's going on for you.
Yeah. So I want to start off, and we've got people continuing to join the line. I want to start off with a piece that, just an energy clearing to sort of set the tone and sort of an energetic call to action for us. So Ron and I practice a body of work called Access Consciousness. If you want to find out more about it, you can go to expandyouриmpact.com/access. And I'll type that for you in the chat. It's a two-part body of work. One is it's a hands-on modality. They have a practice called Access Bars. It's 32 points on the head that correspond to the beliefs you have about money and sex and health and communication and time. And when those points on your head are touched, it's like rebooting your hard drive, and all the thoughts and feelings and beliefs that you have are just kind of wiped out. And it allows you to then go back to being someone of space who can make a different choice based on not your limitations of the past, but from just a total space of possibility. And then the second part of the work of Access is this verbal processing. And so anytime we talk about something like sales conversations, all of you have some sort of feeling in your body about that.
Typically in the belly region. Feels like a roller coaster, maybe.
Right? The desire to like vomit or, you know, go off and do something else other than sales conversations.
Maybe you feel like you're stealing from them or cheating them or tricking them or fooling them or doing something to them or manipulating them. Maybe you got all those other kinds of thoughts.
So for those who are live on the call, if you will type into the chat for me, I want you to type in the feeling that having sales conversations for you gives you, right? So type in sleazy, car salesman, type in, you know, whatever it might be. Let's just bring all that junk to the surface. Like, even if you've been doing it, high pressure, Lisa says giving, keep telling me, trepidation. Okay, so just bring all of those feelings up, bring them all up, right?
Making them do something.
They're making them do something making them do something, right? So with Access, we bring this energy up because we're all feeling it anyway. And Access then asks you to run the clearing statement, which at this point you don't need to understand. Once you hang around enough, you'll learn it and you can say it for yourself. But by me saying this clearing statement, this series of weird words and phrases, it allows us to sort of neutralize that energy. So everything negative, every judgment you have about sales and being a salesperson and having to do sales in your business, can we destroy and uncreate all of those? And I'm going to just hear that you're saying energetically yes. And now we can run the clearing statement, which is right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys, and beyonds. And so all of the judgments you have about sales, we'll just ask that to clear now, right? And then be open to the space of possibility of what if sales could actually be fun? What if sales could be something that, and I know.
Why wouldn't it be fun?
I know in my clients' journeys that they haven't quite made it to there's just a level. I don't know that I've named it yet. But when you look at me and you can say, I love having sales conversations, that to me is the tipping point.
Even the way you said it sounded delicious.
It needs to be this orgasmic experience. It needs to be this, like, getting to that place is really a sign for me that you're never going to have to worry about money again, because you're going to know how to go out there and create whatever amount of money that you're going to need. And by creating it, there's money out there all the time. There's tons of people with money. The problem ends up getting to be is you don't know how to see it, to ask for it, and a lot of times just allow yourself to sort of receive it, because that you have judgments and conclusions about kind of what all that looks like, right? So throughout this process today, I also want to set us up from the perspective of there is no right, there is no wrong, there is no good or bad to who you are in this moment. You're exactly where you need to be. And the journey of sales is something that I have invested personally over at least $150,000 in coaches and training programs and things like that. And I've done a zillion hours of sales conversations over the years, right? And it's something that if I get myself out of the practice of being present, and if I forget some of the principles, I'm still going to have conversations that don't go the way I'd like them to either. But more times than not now, it is something that's a lot more effortless for me right nowadays. So and I just have a lot more fun with it. And I think that over time for me has shifted the kinds of clients that come and play and the kinds of experiences that the clients have. So that's my wish, my hope, my space of leadership for you is just to really invite you into, if you've got the crappy clients hanging around, if you've got the less than ideal clients, if you've got the ones that, barely pay or sometimes pay or you resist paying, that as you get better at sales and sales conversations, that this possibility of fun and freedom might actually be something that's possible for you, okay? So how many of you would like to be someone who says, yes, I love sales. Sales is so much fun.
Hashtag I love sales.
Hashtag I love sales. And if you don't want to love sales, then you probably should just go ahead and leave right now, because there's no point in being here if you don't want to actually embody the love of it, right? So I'm gonna take a sip of water here.
Sure. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Jamie. So in an energy, in an attraction, in an accepting, in an allowing, the reason that you're working it towards the idea that I love sales is because you want that fun, free feeling that it's easy. And just because you don't believe that that's what's available to you right now shouldn't put you in resistance to the idea that you're moving in that direction, that you're moving towards that goal. So if you're feeling a little tingly right now and you're not sure that I love sales, right? Let's go ahead and suspend your disbelief, stop arguing with what is, and go along with the idea that, yes, I would like for sales to feel more ease, to feel more secure, right?
There's the profit pooch. Somebody's making a delivery here for us. So with that, I didn't make a lot of slides today because I want to have as much conversation with you guys as we possibly can. And so I really just simply made some slides for the mistakes so in going over the conversation with the client last week in the mastermind, I pulled out very quickly 5 mistakes that sort of overall were being made. And I felt like that if we shared what those 5 were and sort of gave you a new possibility with them, that might, you could take that home and start to change the conversations that you're having. So the first mistake I want to talk to is being too friendly. Now, how this one shows up is when you get on a call and the first 5, 10, I've heard clients do it for 15 minutes of chit-chatty conversation, meaning, oh, how are you? Do you have kids? Do you blah? When's the last time you got your hair dyed? Or, oh, that's a lovely shirt you're wearing. When you do too many of those, I've heard it stated in some ways like they're, you're trying to build rapport with somebody. What you do is you actually sort of set yourself on a stage of being equal with them, And then it's very hard later when you want to go into expert mode of, hey, I'm an authority and I can help you make this change in your life. The person has a hard time sort of believing that if they feel like they're exactly the same as you. So what I want you to play with the possibility of is thinking about positioning yourself from the moment the person schedules the call with you. And I would really highly recommend you have sales conversations on the phone instead of doing it in person, because if you're at all empathic or intuitive and you see somebody make a face, or and you can't hide your own body reactions, your own emotional reactions for others, they're going to read your body language, and you're going to read theirs, and you're going to have so much going on in your head that it's very hard to train yourself to do something differently. So I'm going to recommend, my coach had me do this, and it tremendously helped me to quiet. There's two conversations going on in a sales conversation. The shit that shows up between your ears, the stories you make up, the stories, the beliefs you've got about yourself. And then there's the conversation that's going on for the prospect in you. And actually there's a third conversation, because there's what's going on in their head too. Like, oh my God, I forgot to pick up the kids, or what are we going to eat for dinner tonight? Or, wow, I didn't notice that I needed to get a manicure. Like, they're doing all of that. All of that is going on while you're trying to have a sales conversation with somebody. So what I find to be something that helps out so very tremendously is, if you're out networking and you want to move somebody into a sales conversation, or you're taking them from social media into a sales conversation, make there be a specific time and date and procedure for having that strategy session. And so it might mean that they have to sign up to get on your calendar, that they're sent some sort of information about you and your services before they jump on that call. It might be that they fill out an assessment form or something like that. And all of these things are also from the perspective of, if you hold the principle that there is enough, there are enough clients out in the world for you, and that you're really only wanting to work with the ones who are going to be fun to work with and are going to be willing to do what it takes to get the results that they're looking for, then instead of this sales process being about them trying to figure out me, it's really about me trying to figure out whether or not they're qualified enough to be able to work with me and get the results we're looking for. So you're really looking for a co-creative, collaborative sort of spirit with these people, instead of it being, are they going to like me? Are they going to think that I can help them? And too often we get into this place of needing to prove ourselves, and that's where the friendly comes in. If you're trying to get them to like you by showing off about how smart you are, they're not gonna sign up to be your client. And that's why that whole free session model, let me come in and let me tell you everything that's wrong, it doesn't really create more for people, right? Because it fixes what they've got right now, but it doesn't treat the symptoms and the cause to why they're actually really on the phone with you. So set yourself up from a position of authority. Ron, do you have any other insight on there?
Sure. So being too friendly, right, is brought to the surface because typically when you first engage with somebody in a social setting, right, you're wanting to sort of orient them and connect with them and build some sort of positive momentum, but that's not the purpose of the sales conversation.
Correct.
The sales conversation is a structured, professional interaction where we are here for a purpose. We are here to determine if we want to work together going forward, and me being the professional who is initiating this, I have an agenda, I have a rationale, I have a reasoning, and we're trying to understand if we are going to be able to work together. And by understanding that formality and that structure provides both conscious help to you because it gets you out of your head, right? But it also provides them with subconscious seeding that they can trust you and they can believe in you, that they can count on you because you're showing up the way you are.
Because you can lead them. The leadership quality. So I start off a sales conversation with, first of all, they're going to call me. I'm not going to call them most times, or I'm going to have them meet on a conference line. And I immediately go, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join me here today. I got the assessment that you wanted to fill out, that I had you fill out. I have looked through that. So tell me, so during the course of the call today, we have about 45 minutes together. Does that still work for you? Okay, great. And if they say no, I'm going to say, well, really, our time is valuable here. I really want to be able to get clear. We probably should reschedule if you don't have 45 minutes of interrupted time. See, I'm leading them. I'm also making boundaries for myself of what I will tolerate and what I won't tolerate. And if they're showing up late and if they can't be, if they're trying to multitask while having a conversation with me, then probably not the kind of client I want to have, right? Because they're going to show up that way on a lot of the coaching calls that way then. So I'm going to say, do we have 45 minutes interrupted? Okay, great. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions through the course of the conversation today. Is it okay if I interrupt you if you start to get into telling a story? Because I don't need, most of the time, all the details. I really just need to be able to get a high-level picture of what's going on. And then I can help point out to you what's missing. Why are you not where you want to be?
And if you don't interrupt them and they go into a story, then they take over the conversation. They drag it through their story. And they go into why they're doing this and all their backstory of what's happened.
Correct.
Before.
And then that's why you get on conversations where, it's an hour and a half long, right? And you know every single thing about them. And the more details you know about somebody, it actually is a distraction, because the more you sort of know about them, the more you can make sort of judgments and come to conclusions about, oh, well, they will sign up to work with me, or they won't sign up to work with me, or, oh, they don't have the money for it because they just paid to go take their kid to college. Like, all of that doesn't matter. And honestly, too, no matter what kind of modality you're practicing, all of you have such capabilities with changing people's lives that it really doesn't matter the circumstances that's going on for somebody. Every one of us has shit going on in our lives, right? Until we learn to create from points from not drama and trauma, right? But the successes we're going to have in our life come from us focusing and overcoming the challenges, focusing on what we want and not what we don't want, okay? So you cannot be friendly and be a stand for their transformation if you're relating to them and how, you did show up late for the call. I show up late all the time, or, oh, I know exactly what that's like, right? You've got to be a leader in that field. So if you have any questions on this particular thing, or if the energy, I want to clear the energy of, but I want them to like me. They won't hire me if they don't like me. So everything that is, can we destroy and uncreate that energy that exists anywhere in your body, in your history, from all generations and all lifetimes? Yes. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. Because what if it wasn't a matter of like? See, the other piece with this like thing, guys, and then it makes my heart hurt to say it, to just feel the energy of that. If you let someone else choose whether they like you or not, and you have that be the basis of working with you, you're giving all of your power away to them. You're giving your power away to them. Do you see how that feels? But if you say, you know what? I'm cool. I'm awesome. I've got this amazing combination of craziness. And when I do all of it together, this magic just happens and you'll get this result in your life. Or, these other crazy, amazing things are going to happen. And I just want people who want that in their life, who just want to hang out with me because I'm awesome. That's the kind of people who you want to be having as clients and hanging out with, not the ones who can whip you around on a dime because they like you today or they don't like you. Like, can we be done with that?
Right, because you understand that if you're buying into the bullshit that you need to be liked, then it's going to cause you problems with this client downstream. That you're getting into the relationship not to help them. You're getting into the relationship
to make yourself feel good or to need
Correct.
validation that they.
Correct.
So Jamie's like, I have enough friends. I need more clients. Thank you. Yes. Right.
Yes.
So this is that place of we can be friendly, we can be nice, but we need proper boundaries. We need structure. It's like raising kids too. I'm not their friendly friend. And it's also, we blur the lines of what friends is. We can be friendly, but we're not letting them be anything less than the infinite being they truly be, and being a space of total possibility and transformation for them. Okay? So we're going to move on to the next one. This one's a big one. Being afraid of being too pushy. This is where we have to hold the space for transformation. Now, it's funny because I talk with some of my girlfriends who have made the shift from I hate sales, right, to I love sales, and I hate being sold to I love watching how people got me to pay them money, right? If you, and I would encourage you to bring some awareness in the next week or two to everything that you purchase and why you purchase it, and where you judge how somebody is doing something to you, or and I even say it, doing something to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the case that we brought up in the mastermind group with this conversation is the principle of everyone has choice. And if you believe that everyone has choice, then there's nothing that I can do to you, or nothing that can be done to me. Now, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of, cancer and wars and things like that. That's a totally separate phone call. But for the case in point right here, right now, you guys are all healers, you're coaches, you do amazing things in the world, and you're not going to screw anybody over. You're not going to be doing anything wrong to anybody. So simply finding out whether or not somebody is interested in the transformation that you can provide, helping them get clear on if that's what they really want, and then helping them to overcome getting out of their own way to have what they want, that's the space that you're looking to be. Now, here's the difference too, and I probably should have made this a disclaimer on the webinar. If you're looking to charge high fees, you have to be able to make that transformative sale. You have to be able to help somebody put the pieces together that shows them where they are now in their mindset, with the strategies they've got in thinking that is working for them or not working for them, and the tactics and skills that they know, and where they want to be. And you've got to be able to bridge that gap for them in mindset, in strategy, and in tactics, and show them that what you can do for them can help them in these areas, and or they might need some additional help as well. But helping them to get clear allows them to make the decision for themselves and not feel sort of victim to that situation.
So when you're afraid of being too pushy, like where does that come up in the sales conversation? Like, are they like...
Well, first of all, let's talk from a law of attraction standpoint. If we're afraid of doing something, doesn't that just create more of it?
if we are focused on that.
So at that point, whenever you feel that fear come up, you need to learn to destroy and uncreate it. You need to run the clearing statement. You need to run interesting point of view. I feel afraid. Interesting point of view. I have that point of view. Until you just have an awareness of, oh, what fear am I feeling? Who does that belong to? What is that about? And maybe using that to
Yeah, and so I come up with even another thing that's come up for me as we're talking about it. I was sharing with you the Will Smith video where he's talking about what it was like to go, skydiving, and how the night before skydiving, right, they were all panicked about the fact they were going to go skydiving the next day. And on the other side of having gone through the skydiving, he was wondering what it was he was actually afraid of the night before, because the night before he wasn't actually facing anything. Nothing was actually happening. There was nothing imminent. And so when you're being afraid of being too pushy, what would happen if you were too pushy? Right? They wouldn't like you, or you would come off salesy, or see, there's a thing again, they wouldn't like you, right? So you're in your head. If you come to the conversation with the idea that you're in service to the universe, right? If you're here showing up as you, the being afraid to be too pushy can't exist.
Correct.
Because you're there for them, right? That's why you're there. So that afraid to be too pushy is just noise in your dome, stuff going on between your ears.
Distraction from being able to serve somebody.
Because maybe you're just that amazing that you could just touch them and they're all better. And maybe that's a little too scary for you to hold that. So you're like, oh, what if they don't like me? Right? As your distraction.
Yeah. So everywhere that you've been taught or bought or bought into the lie that being pushy is bad and wrong, and you won't allow yourself to do it. Can we just create all that?
Yeah, you used the used car example last time.
Right, wrong, good, bad, all night, blood, book, shirts, boys, and beyonds. Yeah. And another thing too is, so that's why I want you to look back at what you've invested in for yourself in the past. And if you have anywhere where you feel like you've been taken advantage of, okay, I want you to be in question with that. And I want you to I'm going to give you a couple questions here to sort of heal that wound. Because if you look at that, if you bought something and you're like, that was wasteful, or, I shouldn't have done that, how much are you cutting off your ability to receive from that experience by judging it? I know that when I stay in a place of gratitude and love for everything that happens in my life, and I've had some shitty stuff happen. I've been partially blind, I've been divorced, I've had people throw meat on me because they didn't like me, I've just had stuff happen. But if I look at every single one of those experiences and I say, what's right about this I'm not getting, it's pivoted me to something that I wanted more in my life, right? The going partially blind allowed me to stop and take a look at what I didn't want to see in my life, right? And it allowed me to go, there's some people in my life I don't really want around anymore. And there's some experiences I don't want to keep having. So, and even every single class that you bought and, you didn't look at it, or it wasn't what you thought it would be, take some time as homework and heal some of those wounds, because I guarantee that if you heal some of that, when you're in these sales conversations, you will not have so much noise in your head that keeps you from, the noise in your head separates you from being able to be really present with the person that's on the other side of the phone. And the person on the other side of the phone is coming to you because they have a problem. They've already read your blogs or seen you speak or followed you on social. And now they're kind of like prostrate at your feet saying, help me figure this out. And so your job here is to get out of your own way so you can be present with them. Okay? So will you promise me to do some healing around your own past experiences and start to look at them in the light of what's right about this? And it's funny to me, in sharing, an example with some of my clients, there's examples where they've stepped up their game in new and different ways and bought programs from people, or bought them from other webinars and things like that. And they talk about feeling pushed, right? And they it's simply just like by having the judgment about it, you can never be that energy that actually was that space. So I would invite you into a possibility of looking at as well, when is pushy good, right? When is, the example of Ron with Will Smith getting, jumping out of a plane. He tells the story that, Will Smith is in the plane and they tell them on the count of 3, you've got to jump. But they go 1, and then on 2, they get pushed out of the plane because they know enough that if they say 3, the person's going to hold on to the side of the plane and not jump because their logical brain takes over. So I would invite you to look back at your own experiences too, and anywhere that you have felt the energy of push or felt the energy of somebody being pushy to you, take a look at that with some healing love and some what else is possible love and light, and see, was that such a bad thing? Was that such a bad thing? Because again, everybody on this call is like doing light work or good stuff in the world. I don't have any bad people on the phone selling, like I don't even know, right? But there's nobody here doing awful. And if you're a nutritionist and you don't get people to start eating vegetables and you're afraid to be pushy and they keep eating potato chips and being fat
or not showing up,
then can you get that being pushy might actually be helpful is what I'm trying to get you to, right? You've got to get them to eat their vegetables. You've got to be getting them visible on social media. You've got to be, whatever it is you're doing, pushy might be actually what they really need. And I think I learned this lesson the hardest way is because, I've had way too many people who, on a sales conversation were like, no, I just don't really have the money, or, I really just don't have the time. And I didn't push to investigate more about why they were saying that. So in a situation where if somebody says, oh, I don't have the time, it used to be that because I didn't want to feel pushy, I wouldn't ask them another question. I would go in my head about, oh yeah, they don't have time. I don't have time. I'm wasting time over here, and I would go into my head about it. But the thing I want to teach you how to do is ask questions, and that's one of the pieces of homework I gave you, or the bonus I gave you when you came on the call, was those set of questions, the conscious conversion questions. Those questions, if you stick to those questions, when somebody says they don't have time, then you go back to question number 1 and you say, so I'm just curious, you said you wanted whatever it was that they said at the beginning of the call that they wanted, right? A slimmer body, if you're a nutritionist or something, right? They want to be healthy. Well, what does being healthy mean to you? And you're telling me you don't have enough time. Time for what? And then I can understand and explore their understanding of time, because it might be like, oh, I don't have time to shop. And I could go, cool. You know what? In my program, I'll help you figure out how to have somebody go shopping for you. I'll figure out how to shorten your time shopping, or hey, we'll go shopping together, right? Until I understand more of what I need to push further into understanding more about what their objection is before I can even get to seeing if it's something that is going to be easy to overcome.
Right, so to emphasize that, when you are afraid of being too pushy, you're not willing to investigate.
Yes.
You're not willing to dive in and get in their business. Because I'm telling you guys, time and money are not the objection. Time and money are not the objection.
All right. So number 3 mistake. Most of you are super smarties, right? You got all the answers figured out, and you spend a lot of your time telling and fixing and solving people's problems. And then you feel smart, and then they're like, oh, this was great. Thank you for your time. I'm so glad you could help me. And then they go away, and you're left with this poured out kind of feeling. Like I just wasted an hour of my life or 15 minutes of my
I gave
life.
them a blueprint and they didn't buy it.
Yeah, right? But they need my help, right? So this is where I gave you guys the blog post originally of like, hey, if I come to the doctor and I say I have a pimple and the doctor's like, here's pimple cream, right? I'm going to walk away and I'm just going to keep using the pimple cream, but I'm going to keep getting pimples. If the doctor actually asks me, you know, so what have you been eating? And how's your stress levels? And, oh, those pimples are on your chin. So tell me, you know, you got a little stress in your life, a little hormonal right now. If he asks me those things, then he might be able to diagnose or uncover, oh, so you're eating a bag of M&Ms every night. And so therefore, you know, your hormones are all wacky and you've got all this like extra sugar in your body. Maybe if we could fix that, that would fix, right? So this is why you stick to the conscious conversion questions, okay? Stick to those questions. Buy some M&Ms and do this on the phone, because the moment you want to go into telling, you hit the fucking mute button and shove some M&Ms in your mouth or take a drink of water. Stop telling. The telling isn't helping them, okay? And so I talked about this in the blog article. And Ron, if you'll get the link for that in case they didn't read that. You know, if somebody is, well, how do I overcome this objection, like right now, right? And I can give you the answer to that. But I'm also going to point out, or I'm going to ask a question. If it's something I can answer in like a 2-second answer, and it will lead me to being able to point out something else that's misaligned in their thinking, then I'm okay to answer that question for them. But I'm going to answer it, and then I'm going to ask a question that goes back to, what do they want? What do they really want? And I'll tell you a hint, everybody. When they come to you originally, most people give you a very superficial, very trite what they want. And your job is to get to the heart of the matter and to get a real understanding of why do they want what they want. Because you guys don't want to close, you really just don't want to close more clients for closing more clients' sake. You want more clients because you need money to pay the bill, and you want to have money to go on trips, and you want to have money in your 401k. That's why you want, and those things make you happy. Those things bring you joy. It's the very first blog post on that. Ron's pulling up that blog for you guys. So you want to ask the questions that really get them, because I don't know if you've heard the adage of we buy with logic and justify with emotions. The emotions are what rules us. When your bank account is empty and somebody sends you an email that says, hey, you know, here's how to get clients and here's how I did it, and you're like, oh, I need a client, and you go buy that thing that moment, you're buying off of the emotion of it. And that's not wrong. That's not wrong to, especially when you're doing good work. And again, I don't think I've got any bad people on the phone doing bad things to bad people. So get yourself to trust that if you stay in the question and help paint a picture of what somebody really, really wants and why they don't have it, that will help change the sales conversation. And let me also talk about another thing too here is, if you tell somebody an answer, they immediately go back into their head, file that answer away, and usually come up with another question, but that's off topic. And so if we go back to the first mistake where I told you guys couldn't be too nice, this is where you need to be the expert. And you need to take a stand for them, because you know how to get where they're trying to go faster and with less heartache than they are. So if they come in and they think that they can just ask you a bunch of questions, or that is actually really helpful, then you're going to leave them to go off and figure the stuff out on their own. And it's going to take them a long time to do that. It's going to create strife in their family. It's going to create havoc in their bodies, and you've got to see the depth of the long-term pain that you're causing by not taking a stand for somebody the time when you have them on the phone. You got anything else on that one?
No, good.
Okay. And if you guys have questions as we go through, like, I'm not trying to talk at you here. I need to feel the love. I need to feel that you're on the right page. I need to know that you guys have no fucking clue what I'm talking about. So let me know where you're at with these things, or how does it look in this situation, right?
Love, Jesus.
Thanks, Jamie. All right. So another thing that you guys do is you sort of kind of, well, I got this program that you might like, and it's like 4 of these and 7 of those, and just decide on your own. And it's here if you want it.
And
does that sound like a violation of principle number 1? Like, oh, I don't want to be pushy. No, if you're the expert and you've been asking these questions and you clearly understand what it's going to take for somebody to get to where they want to go, like, think of it as a roadmap. I draw sales conversations out on paper, right? I say, so you need this and you need this. Ron and I were doing this on Sunday. The guy said he even came to the call saying he wanted coaching. And it was like, well, so tell me why you want coaching. Well, I just don't have enough clients. Okay, so why don't you have, and I'm playing in and out of these questions. They're not necessarily linear. You don't have to ask them exactly in the right order, because as soon as somebody's like, well, I don't have enough clients, I'm going to say, okay, so I can ask, why don't you have enough clients? And I can also ask so what would having more clients do for you? And I've got to know both sides of that equation so I can clearly paint the picture of, oh, okay, so you don't know how to talk about yourself in the world. You don't know what buttons to push on LinkedIn. You don't know what to say to somebody after they do comment or like or share something of yours. Okay, so you're going to need help with all of that. Do you know what kind of programs you're going to offer? And I can specifically walk through this sort of like checklist in my head of what all that is required to help them get what they want. And then when I talk about, okay, so my program is $36,000, I'm not just saying it like that. I'm saying, so based on what you're telling me, we have these 25 issues to work through. And so it's going to take some time. Normally I work with people over the course of a year. We work with people in a variety of ways. We have some private time. We have some group coaching time. We have some mastermind retreats. But if you're looking to have breakthroughs in all of these areas, then this is what I recommend. And I'm recommending it as the expert who's looking ahead a year and saying, if you want 5 new clients and you want $250,000, this is what you have to do to get that. And then that person can make a clear decision about whether they want to pay to, make that investment, or they're willing to do the work or not, right? So
what I enjoyed about your particular thing about not making a clear offer is the point that you're on, but in that particular conversation, you continue to ask questions beyond what the person was actually looking for, because you know more as an expert of what's required based on what they said they want. So for instance, you want more clients. So do you have a way to get into conversations? If you've got into conversations, are you comfortable closing people? So you're asking, do you have a marketing plan? Do you have a sales plan? Do you have a team, or do you need to set up a team? So do you have fulfillment as another direction you're going? And ultimately, if you had a successful business, what would that look like for you, right? Is where you're taking it, because the business and everything that we choose and do in life is because we're under the assumption that when we have it or do it, we will feel better. So when he is successful, and when he has clients, and when his business is expanded, and when he achieves these things, he will feel better. And I want to understand what that better feels like, because in every nuance of every word of everything that they say, they're explaining to you what their point of view is. And that helps you understand how to address them and how to connect with them about what it is that's going on with them.
And how to get them to make a different choice or decision than they're used to making. This is what a leader does, right? A leader sees ahead and sees, if you keep thinking this way, you're going to get what you've always gotten. You're going to end up where you always were. But this is the differences that we have to think that differently. We have to make different actions, right? So when you talk about what you do, this is where I don't care how many times you've updated your website. I don't care how perfectly your products and packages are, how that brochure is. Every single person who gets this skill can sell without a website, without packages and programs. I sold my $100,000 client without having anything written out. It was literally listening to what he said he wanted and writing notes and saying, okay, so based on what you're telling me, we need to do this, and we need to do this, and we need to do this and this. And so that's going to take this much time or this many sessions or whatever. And so it's going to be this amount. And I hadn't fathomed what that was going to be beforehand. And it was simply, he was like, okay, sounds good. And if I had gone into my head or stayed into my head about, well, that's too much money, or, what happens about this or what that, like, that's where you just cut yourself off from the miracles and the possibilities that sort of exist. We have another client who went into a sales situation thinking she was going to be selling her year-long coaching program, right? And the client, the prospect, it was a renewal situation, but the prospect was just not having it, was, not interested in it. And they walked away from the situation where my client thought that she had lost her client. And I said, so talk to me though about, you went through the questions, the conscious conversion questions, what happened? And she's like, well, she wants this and she needs help with that. And she wants to do this. She wants to just like pick my brain and hang out with me and travel. And I said, well, is that something that would be interesting to you? It's because I know her, it would be, right? And she's like, yeah, but I can't just, offer that. And I said, so, well, what if you could? And she went back to the client and ended up getting exactly the same amount of money as she had originally wanted, but ended up only selling 4 VIP days and a couple of coaching calls for an entire year. And the woman's like, sure, here, $15,000, pay in full. Immediately, she paid the money and was very happy. She's like, yeah, but I didn't want that thing over there in that other way. I wanted, what I wanted. So this is where if you go into this thinking that everybody has to fit in a certain box, you cut off all of these amazing possibilities of collaboration and contribution because you can't see how to create situations where you're like, okay, so if you have this problem, we can solve that. Here's what it looks like, and here's how much it would be to have that problem solved. Okay. All right, our last one here is buying into their money story. So my favorite book of all time is Money Isn't the Problem, You Are. Highly recommend you go check that one out on Amazon.
I'll add that to the chat.
Money Isn't the Problem, You Are. Great book. I've got a whole little mini coaching program on that if you're interested in that too. But it talks about, and I think this is the one I've learned the hard way too, and I really hope that you guys don't have to learn this lesson. I had what appeared to be a wealthy person as a prospect, and I knew she had done another coach's program before. And so we were talking, and I'm in the beginning of my sales conversation learning with her. And I'm like, oh, she's got lots of money. She's rich. And, she's done this other lady's program. And So we get to the end of the call, and I'm not so good at it. I'm just kind of focused on the price of it. And I tell her what it is, and she's like, "Oh, that's just too much. I don't have that," you know? And I was kind of shocked, right? Because I had so many judgments and conclusions about her ability to have the money, right? And later I find out that she's gone off and done somebody else's coaching program that's even actually more expensive. And I know that that program provides a lot less than what, at the time it was just me, than what my program involves. And it made me so furious. First of all, at the prospect. I mean, I just wanted to never see her again. And I was so mad. And I had to really stay in the question of, well, what's right about this I'm not getting? And it was that I wasn't willing in our conversation to get really clear with her on what she needed and what she wanted, and that I could help her with those things. And I didn't get her to the place of understanding what the cost was of her not getting the help that she was looking for. And I didn't take into account the way she wanted to be helped, right? Like we talked to about the story with the $15,000 client, right? Sometimes you have to hear how somebody wants to be served, and they would be willing to pay more if they got some extra perks or bonuses or benefits or something like that, right? So all of us have spent our last dollar probably on a program that promised it would help us, and whether or not the program did or not, that's up to you. But when you make the situation where you're believing somebody else's money story, you don't know who they can go ask to borrow the money. You don't know that money just won't show up in a refund check or something somewhere else, right?
It's my opinion that if you buy into their money story, then you're buying into their past. You're buying into their story in general, and that you probably haven't gotten to the real clear objection of what's going on for them. The purpose in the early part of the call is to understand what it is that they want, right? And anything about the money is more, in my experience, about them not believing that what you've presented is clearly going to solve that problem, or they're not in a true pain about that problem, or that they just don't really want it, right? And so there's other areas to probe beyond their actual dollars. Because if we were into dollars, like, look, you could put this on a credit card, you could borrow money from a friend, you can ask, you're saying that on reflex, I don't really have the money. Like, you didn't even really try to get the money. You didn't really even spend much of an effort. You said, well, I can't do that. You didn't ask about financing, you didn't ask about a discount. So to me,
you don't want it.
You didn't really want it.
And so I don't ever get to the place of having the money conversation until I've gone through those conscious conversion questions and I'm gotten clear with the person. So based on what you're telling me, you want this future outcome, and you want it because of these things it will make you feel. And based on what you've told me today, you need help in this area and this area and this area. And that if we get you help in those areas, you believe 100% that you can have the outcome you're looking for. And I get the person to verbally agree to that roadmap. And I go, okay, so, and you might need to ask these willingness pieces, like, okay, so is there anything that would stand in your way of you getting what you want? And I'll share as a bonus, there's 13 factors of willingness that you need to be aware of and go through. Like, if the person's not willing to sell stuff, to ask somebody for money, to take out a loan, to rearrange their schedule, to be uncomfortable, like, those are all requirements of true transformation. And I will tell you, every single client of mine who gets amazing results has done something uncomfortable in their life. And I've had to do uncomfortable things in my life, right? Every time I've made that up leveling. But what you focus on is, I want this other thing more that I'm willing to do. I'm willing to make a sacrifice. And it's uncomfortable to be the space for somebody as they make that shift. But I tell you, your ability to lead somebody through that transformation, they'll actually get the benefits of working with you at the beginning of that conversation, because you're holding such a powerful space for them of really finally seeing what's standing in their way.
We've had a lot of clients come and be like, but I have clients that can't afford it, or I've promised what it is. We've had clients say that they want to make 6 figures, but the way they have their program arranged, they couldn't make 50 if they sold out all of it. Like, they haven't actually considered the math of what it is that they want. They're buying into somebody else's story about what they're worth, right? So ultimately, the only reason you would ever have an idea that you would buy into somebody else's money story is that you, when I say, are you worthy, that there's some tinge of doubt that you're worth that much, right? The only reason you would ever do that. That's the reason that you're bringing people in your life that would even challenge the idea that you're not worth 10 times more than what you're charging, right? The example I'll never forget was when I listened to Nagel and he talked about, if I had a gun, right? And I was
gun to your child's head,
you would find the money. And it was just his way of illustrating it, that they just don't want it. And so you have to be able to bypass that bullshit of, well, no, and get them to either say, look, you either want this or you don't want this.
Or be honest with me, like either you don't want, like if you outline the things the way I mentioned earlier, like if you say to them, okay, so you're here and we need all of these things, you believe that if you get all of these things figured out, you'll have that future outcome you want. And they agree to that. And then they tell you, well, but I don't have time or I don't have money. Okay, so if money wasn't an object, you and I agreed that this was something that would help you get what you want. So now let's have some conversation about what that money, I don't have the money, looks like. So do you need some coaching around how to get the money? Do you need me to brainstorm with you ways and options to, find the money, create the money, ask for the money, borrow the money, sell some things, like whatever? Or is it that you're not willing to do what it takes really to be uncomfortable enough and make that shift? Because every single person, and I just tell you this because if you aren't the one, if you believe that you're the one that can do something to them and take away their choice, and that you don't want to push them this far, they will go off and find someone else who will. And that may not be the best option for them. And that gets back to the worth is you've got to just trust, because I said so today and Ron said so today. Like, we anoint you all worthy, more than worthy. It's not even a concept I want to have a conversation about, because I just don't choose that reality at all. I choose to price what I want to price things at, and I choose to offer the programs that I do from joy and trust that if I choose this, it's going to have a result. And that result may not be what I expected it to be, but it might also be a gazillion times better. And if you guys haven't seen the class that I do about how I got the $100,000 client, it was because I failed at doing things the right way when it came to a webinar. But I stayed in question and I followed the energy of what would feel fun and light. And, having 100 people in a $1,000 program is kind of like a lot to manage. And I had a lot of expectations and conclusions of that. But having one person pay me $100,000 for 90 days, well, that was kind of fun. There's all kinds of possibilities out there for you. So when you buy into the money stories, it limits you. And so when you come to calls, you've got to clear your energy and come from a space of, I'm here to see if I can serve, how I can help them get clear, ask them these questions and see what happens, and remove any of your, I need this client to pay this bill, or I need this client in order to whatever that might be.
Because that's why you're attached to their money story, because you're attached to a money story.
And you have to look at every single money story you tell yourself, because if you can't spot somebody else's money shit unless you have it. And the time one too, and the overwhelm. Right? So it's funny to me to do the sales coaching for people, because different people show up and they're like, oh, all my people always say they're just too overwhelmed to work with me. Well, that's usually their thing. Or, oh, everybody gives me a money objection. If they give you a money objection, you need to look at your own money situation and ask questions in a different way to help them get into their own reconciliation of that situation. Okay? All right, I hope this has been helpful for you. So the next steps is I'm gonna let you go to the web right now. I've got some more stuff to teach you here. I want you to go to expandyourimpact.com/conscious conversion. And Ron's gonna type that one in the chat. And we're gonna go there too. Actually, I already have that pulled up for you. And here is my invitation for you. So if what I've talked about for you today seems like just like you're making all of these mistakes, and there's a lot of truths and maybe some things you have some judgments on about what I said, but it feels a little light and fun to be able to sort of play in this space of possibility. I'm going to invite you into a program that I call 5 Simple Steps to Closing More Clients Than You Ever Thought Possible. This is my conscious conversion process. So you have the questions I gave you as pre-homework, and you guys will get the link to that again if you want. But in this particular program, I'm going to walk you through in a day of live training, the 5 steps. And those 5 steps, actually, they spell out the word close, because that's the ultimate benefit you guys are looking to have, right? And the first step of this is that you got to choose to succeed. And this is an every 10-second sort of situation. If you go into those sales conversations thinking anything other than the truth, that everything is always working out for you, and the prospect, you are doing everyone a huge disservice. A huge disservice. Unfortunately, because we aren't taught to enroll people into new possibilities, this often brings a lot of judgments and conclusions into the sales conversations. The good news is that 99% of these thoughts and feelings aren't yours, but you can use your intuition and your feelings to facilitate change in your prospect faster than you ever thought possible. But the first step begins with choosing to choose and doing it again and again and again. Most of you guys are really good at beating yourself up for choosing. And so we play with a lot in the work of access, just to choose and then see if it feels good. And if it doesn't, we make another choice, right? How does it get any better than that? I need to teach you to do that when it comes to your sales conversations.
That's showing up with the right mindset in order to get things done. When you're choosing with that sort of clarity, you're showing up the right way.
Right. And it's in the sales conversation. I'm sorry, but every 10 seconds, they're going to say something, and you're going to go think about the laundry, or you're going to think about your grocery list, and you've got to choose again to be present. Choose again to not believe their story. So I've got a couple of tools. I'm going to teach you a module of training, and then I've got some resources here. This Expand Your Income playbook helps make sure you're charging enough per session to hit the income goal you need to hit and to be able to have a life. A lot of you price based on what others in the market charge. Phooey on that. Charge what you want to charge based on what works for you and what works for your business. I'm going to give you some energetic alignment audios, and I'm going to give you the 10 keys to total freedom to work through there. And then step 2 is to learn to ask these questions. So yes, you have the sheet in front of you here, but I need you to learn to dance in the conversation with those questions and sort yourself out to helping the person you're talking to get clear about where they are, where they want to be, and the changes that need to happen to facilitate them getting to where they want to be. And then we need to open you up to receiving more strategy sessions everywhere. If you want to have a lifestyle business, you've got to live in co-creation with the universe. You've got to keep yourself open to the possibility of receiving clients anywhere and at any time. During this module, we'll walk through how to set up systems that'll help you get clients from your social networking connections, as well as people you meet in real life. And I'll show you how to get strategy sessions from your signature talks, from your podcast guest appearances, and anywhere else you put yourself out there. And this module comes with 7 client getting emails. You guys just fill in the blanks with these and you send them out, and then you get strategy sessions. I'm going to give you my Connections to Clients virtual training, and this is how I turn my social media connections into people I talk to on the phone, and that turns into clients, it turns into staff, it turns into joint venture opportunities, it turns into, who knows what kind of magic, speaking gigs, and to follow that possibility. And then I want to teach you how to set up an evergreen strategy session funnel. So if you'd like your calendar booked consistently from your social media interactions, this is the step-by-step, how to make the graphics, how to load them up, what software to use, all of the little nuts and bolts and pieces of what scheduling software, etc. And then I want to walk you through scripting your objections, because everybody's going to give you a money excuse of some kind. Everybody's going to say they have to talk to their husband. You're going to get, there's some basic ones, right? But we've got to be able to help you script those objections, those transitions, and the closing, right? So you're not going to say this, you're not going to read it word for word, but I got to have you comfortable enough about the not being surprised when something happens. And this is why we do this class, ongoingly. You'll get an opportunity to come and be a part of the mastermind. But it's good to hear how other people are dealing with sales conversations, because then you realize, oh, I know the answer to that one, or I know how to overcome that one. I can see the lie in it.
Yes, and it's on average, there's 3 objections in any particular sale. And a lot of times those objections, if you don't have something properly considered ahead of time about how to address it and how to reframe it, then you're going to end up explaining something about you, or you're going to go into your head about what's going on. And you don't need to go into your head. Most of the objections someone have nothing to do with you. Sometimes it's about them, and sometimes it's about a feature or an advantage or a benefit of the program. So it's simple transitions like, I'm so glad you asked that, right? It gives you such a chance to receive what it is. I'm so glad you asked that. It's such a good transition. And it gives you a chance to talk about it. So glad you asked that, because in the program, we go through this and you have a chance to flush it out. So glad that you had an opportunity to bring it up. If you have any other questions, let me know, and you can go right back into it. Would you like to get started today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we'll talk about the 4 tools to overcoming those sales objections. The real reason you and your prospects don't have the money. It's a little energetic training here to shift you. And then your objection overcoming checklist. So again, we're going to make sure that you have all the little scripts that you need, and how I would say them. And then you'll be able to sort of and how Ron would say them. And then you'll be able to sort of practice them so you get them in your own words. But you don't ever feel stumped again like that. And then the last piece of this is just to enjoy the journey. The more strategy sessions you have, the more you stay in question, the more you reflect for yourself upon what else is possible, how's it getting better than this, is going to allow you to enjoy the journey. And this is going to be a process until you're making more income than you ever thought possible. You're going to have to keep practicing this stuff, right? And it's also good questions to ask your family members and things like that, right? So we're going to cover all of this material in one day. So on June 15th, Thursday, June 15th, from 10 a.m. until, actually it's 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. I didn't fix that. We're just going to walk through about an hour at a time. We're going to walk through each module. You'll be seeing me on camera and seeing some slide presentations. and then we'll take some breaks, and then you'll come back and learn some more content. During the modules, there'll be worksheets and handouts for you to download and take home with you. And I'm offering this event in 2 different ways. So if you live in the Boca Raton area, South Florida area, you can join us live. We'll give you the details on the location after you register. And if you can't join us, then you're going to join us via Zoom, which is called just like this. Jamie's already in. She's going to join us. Congratulations. Cool. But we're going to meet on the Zoom line, and that means you can see me, you can hear me, we can communicate with you, and then we'll have a recording for you if you aren't able to join us on June 15th, right? And so with this, you're going to get an MP4 of all of the modules, an MP3 of all of the modules, and then in this particular case, I don't normally do this, but I'm going to go ahead and transcribe the calls because Ron and I say things with these objections. And people are like, oh my God, that was so great. I really need to, how do you say that? And I can't ever say the thing again. So we're just going to go ahead and get the calls transcribed, and then you guys can highlight and write them down, for yourself. Now, you'll also get that training I mentioned earlier about how to get the $100,000 client. So Ron and I did a whole training on how to do that. And then one other bonus. So I mentioned that there was a class that I do every month where we get together and we talk about sales conversations. It's like a mastermind. I'm going to invite you to come and just peek in on the July mastermind. This is a group where if this is something that later you want to participate in, we'll have a conversation about that and what that looks like. But for now, I want to give you, after you've played with us in June, you're going to have a whole 30 days to play in a Facebook group with us, ask your questions, practice your sales conversations. And then in July, you can watch each of the participants get a 15-minute hot seat and just really see how hearing what other people are doing on sales conversation really elevates the experience. And then if that's something that's of interest to you, then we can talk about you coming to be a part of the mastermind and see if that's a good fit. Now, Stacy, who's been a part of this program, says, sales is spiritual. It's not the thing that we sell. It's about the results that we can get for people. And Dixie says, when you're talking to the ideal person, you're not selling, but just having a conversation that feels real and turns into a sale. So if those are results that you would like, I'm going to encourage you to come sign up to play with us. If you join by May 31st at midnight, I'm going to cut 50% off the price. So we're going to raise the price up starting June 1st. But the price right now for you guys is just $247 to get the day of training and then a peek into the mastermind for July. Or you can do 2 payments of $147. That's 2 payments of $147. And I offered a pay in full bonus of my 10K magic bullet, which is if you don't have a program that you can easily just say, hey, yeah, it's $10,000. This program will walk you through how to put it together. It shows you examples of other people's programs and sets you up into, really, if you get 10 people paying you $10,000, that's a 6-figure income stream. That would be, everybody would like.
And also, it helps you position your program and not as a series of events, but it helps you do it as a transformation that's focused on the client's outcome.
Correct.
It tends to have a hero label. It's a marketing program. It's a mindset. It can be a signature talk. That's a great bonus.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a lot of success. There's actually someone on the call who had their first $10,000 sale during the training on a break. They got the inspiration, got the idea, had a client call and closed them. There's a lot of magic there going on.
Yep. So if you're interested in that, the URL again is expandyourimpact.com/conscious-conversion. If you have any questions, you can feel free to call us at 888-423-5960. I'm going to write that in the chat. And Ron or I will get back to you and answer whatever questions you have about that. You don't have to join us live. It's an extra benefit if you can. But that is what we've got to present. Any other pieces or feedback here you want to? Our time's about up here, so
Yeah, I think we're good. No,
more than 90 minutes.
May 31st, midnight.
Is the deadline for
Is
the
the deadline.
50% saving.
So
if you're watching this as a replay,
get in to win.
We got to get you to watch the replay and come join us to save 50%. The price is going to go up June 1st. So with that, we all got stuff to go do. Have a great day. Let me know how your sales conversations go, and I can't wait to start playing with the rest of you on June 15th. Take care. Bye.
Bye.